You say you don't like yourself, but if someone asked you why, your answer would feel blurry, not clear, not specific, just a quiet discomfort you carry everywhere. So here's a harder question. What if you don't hate yourself? You just don't know who you are yet? It shows up in small ways. You hesitate before speaking because you're not sure what you really think. You change your tone depending on who you're with. You adjust your opinions mid-conversation, and afterward, you replay everything. Why did I say that? Was that even me? Over time, this creates something subtle but heavy, a feeling that your personality is unstable. Not fake exactly, but not solid either. Psychology calls this low self-concept clarity. It means your internal sense of identity isn't well defined. So instead of acting from a stable core, you're constantly referencing the outside world, other people's reactions, their approval, their expectations. And when your behavior keeps shifting like that, your brain starts drawing a quiet conclusion. If I keep changing, maybe there's nothing real underneath. That's where the feeling comes from, not hatred, but uncertainty that feels like rejection. And the longer it continues, the more it starts affecting everything. Your decisions feel harder. Your relationships feel shallow. Your goals don't stick, because every choice requires one thing, a sense of who you are choosing as. And when that's unclear, everything feels off. But this raises a deeper question. Why would your brain allow this to happen? Why would it let you feel disconnected from yourself? Here's the part most people miss. This isn't a flaw. It's an adaptation. Your brain didn't randomly lose your identity. It learned to pause it, because at some point, being fully yourself didn't feel safe, or didn't feel rewarded. Maybe you were ignored when you expressed something real. Maybe you were judged. Maybe you learned that being accepted mattered more than being authentic, so your brain did something intelligent. It prioritized connection over clarity. It said, adjust first, understand yourself later, and over time, that adjustment became automatic. So now, instead of feeling like a strategy, it feels like who you are. But it's not permanent. It's just a pattern that never got updated. And once you understand how it works, you can start seeing yourself more clearly. Think of your identity like a mirror, not a fixed object, but something that reflects information. Now imagine that mirror is constantly facing outward. It reflects other people, their reactions, their expectations, but rarely turns inward. So instead of seeing yourself directly, you see a collection of reflections. In cognitive science, this connects to something called self-perception theory. Your brain doesn't always know who you are internally, so it looks at your behavior and says, this must be me. But if your behavior keeps changing based on context, the signal becomes noisy, unclear, and the brain struggles to build a stable identity from inconsistent data. There's also a neural layer to this, your brain's default mode network, the system responsible for self-referential thinking, builds your sense of identity over time by integrating memories, actions, and beliefs. But when your actions are constantly adapted for others, that network gets fragmented input. So instead of forming a clear narrative, it creates gaps. And those gaps feel like, I don't know who I am, so the result is predictable. You don't trust your thoughts. You don't feel grounded in your choices, and you assume the problem is you. But the real issue is simpler. The mirror has been facing the wrong direction, and the question becomes, how do you turn it back? Not by forcing confidence, not by inventing a new personality, but by slowly collecting accurate data about yourself. Here's how. What to do? Pay attention to your first unedited thoughts in small moments, before you adjust, before you filter. Why it works. Your brain's automatic responses come from implicit memory. They're closer to your authentic preferences. Real-life example. You hear a song and instantly like it, but then dismiss it because it's not your style. That first reaction matters more than the correction. What to do? In low-stakes situations, hold your original opinion for a few seconds longer before adapting. Why it works? Mirroring is driven by the brain's social reward system. Pausing interrupts the automatic loop and strengthens internal referencing. Real-life example. When a friend shares an opinion, instead of instantly agreeing, you say, "I'm not sure yet." That small pause builds identity stability. What to do? Notice patterns across time, not single moments. What do you repeatedly enjoy? What do you consistently avoid? Why it works. Your brain builds identity through repeated signals.